Hello class, we are Darian Ramirez and Casey Dahl. Today we're going to talk about the family roles and a family dealing with addictions. When there is an addiction in a family system, the family typically adapts by taking on roles that help reduce stress. Each family member will take on a survival role consisting of external qualities, inner feelings, provide relief to the hurting family, and they each have defensive behaviors. The family hero. This family member is successful, responsible, always does what is right, and is good-natured. They harbor inner feelings of inadequacy and guilt. They try to compensate for the deficiency in self-worth of the family with their achievements. They are often high achievers with many friends and are caretakers of others. The scapegoat. This family member is hostile and defiant. They harbor inner feelings of anger, guilt, and rejection. They take focus temporarily of the alcoholic. They can't and won't compete with the hero and often act out with strong negative emotion. The lost child. This child can be described as a loner, withdrawn, or aloof. They feel a sense of loneliness or unimportance. They make no demands of the family in order to avoid confrontations. They protect themselves by being shy, quiet, and avoiding stress as well as attaching to things instead of people. The mascot. This person is immature, fragile, and they need protection. Inside, they feel fear, insecurity, and are very anxious. They provide humor and comic relief in intense situations. In this clip, we see an interaction of two parents and their son. The mother is a recovering alcoholic, and the dad has recently returned after being absent for several years. He is also an alcoholic. The mother took him back because he claimed to have been sober for over 5 months.
Hey! What's going on?
What's going on? What's going on?
What are you doing?
Does it look like I'm doing?
What are you putting in my room? I'm agreeing with
everything you tell me, right? My son won't talk to me. He won't even look at me. What the hell did you do? Turn him against me?
I didn't do anything. I told you I wasn't going to make him talk to you. Dude, get a job.
And what am I supposed to use for a car,
I'm
huh?
the best. That's what I do.
And I don't.
Ricky, you can't stay in this room.
Look, this is our room, baby, okay? This is our house. This is our bed.
You've been drinking.
Kiss me.
Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. I want you out of this house.
We want you out. Turn that noise down. I'm gonna come in here and pound your ass, boy. Don't tell me I'm
Like that.
anybody. You understand me? I've had enough of this shit around here.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Get out, huh? You don't like you a whole lot better when you had a few drinks in you? You want me out of the house? I'm out. Sorry.
I think I made a mistake.
Everybody makes mistakes.
In this clip, Trevor is shown as the scapegoat of the family. The father blames his unhappiness on him because he doesn't want to show him the affection that he feels he deserves. That is what he uses as an excuse for drinking again. After the situation escalates, Trevor shows his good nature. In this way, he is also the hero of the family. Throughout this movie, which I highly recommend, he changes the world by starting a movement of paying it forward, which also shows his desire to do what is right, in order to compensate for a deficit in the world of his dysfunctional family. Addiction and change. Definition of addiction as quote by Daniel from He Restored My Soul. Addiction represents a pathological yet powerful form of learning, he said. It's something that over time it gets into the brain and the neural pathways and get lodged in there. From the 12 Steps Addiction Recovery Manual. Addiction surrenders later freedom to choose through chemical means. One can literally become disconnected from his or her own will. First versus second order change. First order change is on the surface, especially when ordered to go to counselor search. Second order is finding the root of the cause and continuously working to change and avoid relapse. Shame, guilt, and sympathy. Brent Brown has spent years studying shame and has discovered how it relates to empathy and vulnerability. The following video describes how it plays a role in addiction.
One, who do you think you are? The thing to understand about shame is it's not guilt. Shame is a focus on self. Guilt is a focus on behavior. Shame is I am bad. Guilt is I did something bad. How many of you, if you did something that was hurtful to me, would be willing to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake? How many of you would be willing to say that? Guilt. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Shame. I'm sorry, I am a mistake. There is a huge difference between shame and guilt. And here's what you need to know. Shame is highly, highly correlated with addiction, depression, violence, aggression, bullying, suicide, eating disorders. And here's what you even need to know more. Guilt, inversely correlated with those things. The ability to hold something we've done or failed to do up against who we want to be is incredibly adaptive. It's uncomfortable, but it's adaptive.
In this next video, she describes a better way to react when someone shows vulnerability and shares their struggle with you.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, you want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. And we do it all the time. Because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
Well, thank you so much for watching this presentation. We hope you have enjoyed it, and please feel free to ask.